another emergency podcast. Can you believe it? Never in my life, seriously, never in my life have I ever seen two trades this massive happen back to back. And by the way, I am your host, Connor Lewis. This is the Project Podcast. Welcome to the Project Podcast. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button if you're on YouTube, and hit that follow button if you're on Spotify. And if you're not, welcome back. Another big trade has happened. Another emergency podcast is here. I have no time to book a guest for this. This is something I need to take head on. If you know me, you know I love basketball. This is my number one thing. Originally, I wanted to do a basketball podcast, but I thought there was too many of those. But this is another trade I cannot pass up. However, before we hop into all the Zach Lavine-De'Aaron Fox, San Antonio Spurs stuff, I want to give a couple minutes back to my Mavericks. I'm still getting over the Luka trade. Still getting over the Luka trade. I'm not 100% over it yet. It's been a tough. We're on day 2 now of a full day, second day of reactions to the Luka trade, and it's still mind blowing. Luka released a statement not too long after the yesterday's episode came out, and he made it very clear that he did not want to be traded. This was not a thing where he requested trade, and he thought he was going to retire a Maverick. And honestly, I think we all did. I don't think anyone thought he was going anywhere. So I don't think anyone thought Luka was leaving Dallas. And now here we sit. Today, February 3rd, a Monday. Almost about 36 hours? I would say 36 hours since the trade went down that broke the internet. Maybe the craziest trade I've ever seen in basketball history. No one saw it coming, and everyone thought that it would never happen. But the day of reckoning has come. And before we get into the Lavine thing, because this is a huge trade also. I don't think it's as big. I don't think anyone's going to argue that. I don't think the impact is as big right now, at least. This is still kind of a big trade, but I saw a post today on Instagram. I'm very active on Instagram. Go follow me. St. Loud Studios and _ Connor Lewis 7 _ if you don't follow me already. Anyway, the big talk of the town was, well, we thought that Luka was going to pass Dirk as the best Maverick of all time. I thought so too. Honestly, I did. I really did believe so. And the question is, did he even pass Mark Aguirre? Did he even pass Rolando Blackman as one of the best Mavericks of all time? I think yes. I still think Luka is probably the second best Maverick we've ever had. I go by a few categories. Championships and winning is number 1. Overall talent and how long you stay there. So, for example, Dirk is easily the cream of the crop when it comes to Dallas Mavericks basketball players. He won us a championship. He got us to the finals more than once. We know that very well. And we got robbed in 2006, but I won't get into that. Mark Aguirre is a guy that didn't win a championship. Rolando Blackman didn't obviously win a championship. Dallas has never seen the finals before Dirk. I don't think they even got to the conference finals before Dirk. Actually, no, that's not true. They have in the 80s. But either way, Dirk also was a lifelong Maverick. You get points for that, if you ask me. He was there for how many years? Like 20 years? That's as good as you're going to get. Most players don't even play that long. Some players don't even play half of that. So, and finally, how good you were. And Dirk, to me, is the second best power forward of all time. He has incredible longevity. He is one of the best scorers ever. He is one of the top 10 scorers of all time on the all-time scoring list. Great rebounder, very underrated rebounder, and not a bad defender. He has all the talent you could want from a power forward, and he won a championship as a victory lap. I could talk all day about Dirk. Absolutely impactful if you're a Mavericks fan or you're just a basketball fan at all. But the question is, did Luka pass? Obviously, Luka did not pass Dirk. I don't think anyone's going to argue that. I'm not going to argue that. Did he even pass guys like Mark Aguirre? And I think yes. Now, obviously, Luka did not play as long, so Aguirre and Rolando Blackman have him beat in that category. Talent-wise, there's nobody at their peak more talented than Luka was on our Mavericks. Nobody. Not one player. And not even Dirk. I'm saying at peak of their powers. I don't think so. I don't believe so. So I think Luka wins that category. And the championship thing is interesting, but Luka did bring us to a finals when we had not. I hadn't even thought we would win a finals for the next couple of years, or even seen the finals, for that matter. And he brought us there just a few months ago now. Can you believe that? Not too long ago, we were in the finals. And now we don't know what's going to happen with our team. All right. Enough talk about Luka, and I'm still heartbroken. I'm never going to get over this, I don't think. But, life goes on. However, the big news. This happened last night. I was very tempted to make another episode and film last night, but I was too tired. I worked all day that day. It was a very long day for me, Didn't get much sleep that night. But a big trade happened, and if you don't know, because apparently some people don't even know. I was talking to a friend of mine today, my friend Jaden, and he doesn't really even know the whole details. So we're gonna cut right into the details. San Antonio Spurs received De'Aaron Fox, okay, and Jordan McLaughlin, okay. Sacramento Kings receive Zach Lavine, 3 first-round picks. This year's Charlotte pick, that's very valuable. Charlotte's pretty brutally bad. The 2027 San Antonio Spurs pick, and a 2031 Minnesota Timberwolves pick. That could be worth something. And 3 second-round picks. Who cares? The Bulls receive Zach Collins, not bad. Trey Jones, not a bad player. Kevin Huerter, pretty good. And they receive their own 2025 pick back from the Spurs. The Spurs had their pick formerly. Now, I'm going to just jump right in with the Spurs, the first team I talked about. This is awesome. De'Aaron Fox, for those who are unaware, having a great year. Spurs the Kings are not bad. They're at 500 right now. They're sitting at exactly 500. De'Aaron Fox, 25 points a game, 5 rebounds, 6 assists a game. Very efficient for a guard, 47% from the field. For a shorter guard like De'Aaron, who's 6'3", and it's not an easy league to score that high of a percentage when you're a guard. Excellent. I don't think you can ask for much more. I think you can. There's something to want from his jump shot, 100%, but he is athletic. He can pass very well, and he's a solid rebounder. He's averaging 1 offensive rebound a game. That's huge. If you're a guard, if you're anybody averaging an offensive rebound a game, that's huge. That's a second opportunity for you to score. That can make or break a game. We know this. And he wasn't selected to the All-Star team, mostly because his team's not great. And even though Sabonis, I think, is the better player right now, this is a huge loss for the Kings as a fan base. De'Aaron has been electric. We've seen him in the playoffs. He's pretty good. However, he's getting to his later 20s now. The Kings aren't going to win anytime soon. Let's be real. And in my opinion, if you're not competing, why even show up? Why even play? So I don't think it's a bad idea for them to blow it up. They had a shot when they had the whole light the beam thing a couple years back. That didn't end well. We know this. It did not end very well. And I think it's just time to move on. And, I think Sabonis is next. That is my prediction. I predict either Sabonis will get traded before the deadline or this offseason. And if he doesn't get traded then, I don't think he's going to get traded. I think this is when he capitalized. Sabonis is about to be an All-NBA player again, despite being snubbed from the All-Star team, which is insane, by the way. You can tell who doesn't watch basketball because watch Sabonis play. He's awesome. He's great. He's a very talented player. And, the Kings aren't good. That's why nobody's watching them. And also, they're the Kings. So no one's going to watch the Kings. I get it. I understand. I do. But, De'Aaron and Sabonis have been tearing it up. But that's over. And I feel for the Kings fans. This is probably as harsh as when I losing Luka. Now, the problem with De'Aaron is durability. Over the past couple seasons, De'Aaron has been hit or miss injury-wise. I'm just reading down the list right now. Since 2020-21 season, 58 games played, 59 games played, 73 games played, 74 games played, and this season 45 games played, which I think is every game. I believe he's played every game so far. If not, maybe he's missed one. Obviously, recently it's been a little better, but that's harsh. When you're getting paid that much and you're missing games, it's the whole Kawhi Leonard thing. How good is Kawhi Leonard if he's not healthy? When he's healthy, he's a great player, 100%. I'm not arguing that. He's still great. If you watched the Clippers game recently, they're not actually bad. They're not bad at all. I was very low on them because I didn't know what to expect with the Clippers, but they're not bad. Kawhi's pretty good. He's still getting back into his rhythm, but when you're missing that much basketball, it's hard. Imagine that. But that's the whole thing. If De'Aaron's not healthy, it sucks for the Spurs because they did give up a lot. They gave up a lot. They gave up some draft picks, so it's tough. They gave up a little bit of depth, not much, but a little bit. But the good news is that De'Aaron's under 30. He's athletic, and he's playing with Wembanyama, who is, by all accounts, unbelievably talented. Like, oh my God. Like, I haven't watched many Spurs games because they're not really on TV. They put the Lakers on every other game for some reason. I don't know why. Now I understand, but even the Warriors are getting a ton of minutes. I don't know why. But the Spurs are, if the Spurs are on TV and you don't, I don't endorse pirating. I don't. Let me be very clear. But, I know people that do. So if you're not going to pay for ESPN Plus, just try to find a way to watch the Spurs. Watch Wembanyama. Just watch him. I don't care if you turn it off. Just watch him play for like 10 minutes, and you're going to be amazed. He's going to do like 3 things that you've probably never seen before. That's not hyperbole. He's a very rare talent, and I don't think we're ever going to see. I think that one day this will be the standard, but for right now, it's pretty damn cool, right? So I think this is a great move for the Spurs. I think the Spurs are becoming exceedingly great from this. I think. Let me check on the Spurs record. I actually don't know the Spurs record. This is very unprofessional, but we're trying our best here. They're below 500, 70 or 21 and 25. A lot of that is the depth. Wembanyama, as good as he is, he's not always 100%. He's had some hit or miss games. Chris Paul is showing his age, but that's the De'Aaron Fox move, right? I think Chris Paul might retire this season. I think that's not impossible. I think this could be Chris's last year. Chris is really good. If you haven't watched any of Chris Paul, he's still very effective. I watched a couple of Spurs games, and the games I have watched, which one of those was Christmas Day, which was a great game, by the way. Awesome game. Very, very fun. Weird they put it at 12 p.m. Like the first game of Christmas is you put the Knicks and your most profitable under 22 guy. Not very smart on Silver. But the Spurs record doesn't really reflect how good they are. They are much better than the record and persuades you to think. Wembanyama is excellent. Chris Paul is still very good. Adding Fox to this team is great. And I think I wouldn't want to play them in the play-in tournament. They're 12th right now in the West. If you have to see them in the play-in, I'd be a little nervous. I would. Now, I don't know. What are the play-in tournament looking like right now? What is that looking like? Because this is interesting. So right now, it would be Wolves versus Suns, Mavs versus Kings. Kings are going to drop. We know this. This is not new. The Warriors are tied with the Kings. I think the Kings have the advantage. The Spurs are not far behind. They are a couple games behind. They're about 2 games behind the Kings and the Warriors. Adding De'Aaron Fox is a huge difference maker. Now let's discount the last 3 teams, the Utah Jazz, Pelicans, and Blazers. They're not winning anything. They don't want to win. And I don't think the Kings want to win either, so we can automatically discount them. You could see the Spurs in the play-in tournament. The West is dangerous. If we go down the list, Thunder, Grizzlies, Rockets, Nuggets, Lakers, Clippers, Wolves, Suns, Mavericks, Kings, Warriors, Spurs. Now again, discount the Kings. This is interesting. This is where stuff gets real. If, for example, if my Mavericks had to play the Spurs in the play-in tournament, I'd be a little worried. I would. We don't really know what a playoff Wembanyama looks like. We know what a playoff De'Aaron Fox looks like. I'm nervous. I'm very nervous. I'm gonna be honest. I'm a little bit nervous of that. But let's stop talking about the Spurs for a little bit because they're not exactly. To me, they're not the big winners. The big winner, the Sacramento Kings. Yeah, they won this trade. They got Zach Lavine, who's very good. To be clear, he is excellent. It's a similar thing with De'Aaron Fox. He's missed a lot of games last year. He only played 25 games. He's still really good. Right now, he's averaging 24 points a game, about 5 rebounds, 4.5 assists, 51% from the field, about 45% from 3, 80% from the free throw line. That's great. He's a great offensive piece for the Kings. Now, here's the thing. I really thought when I first saw De'Aaron Fox traded, I thought that this is it for the Kings. They're going to blow it up. They want to tank. But then they get Lavine. And then all of a sudden what I'm thinking and what I said before kind of is like, oh, maybe not. Maybe they kind of want to keep winning and they want to try something different. I don't think so, though. I don't think this is a thing. I think Lavine's still really talented. He's keeping the Bulls in a lot of games. And the Bulls are not very good. What is their record? I have it pulled up here. Yeah, they're 21 and 29. Not a great team. He's doing a lot with a really bad team. I mean, Kobe White has been around. I mean, he's fine, I guess. And you have guys like Giddey and Patrick Williams, Patrick Williams is having an awful year. Lonzo just got back from an injury, so we don't really know what he's looking like in the long term. It's a young team. You had a lot of guys under 25. Just to list them: Kobe White, Giddey, Williams, Jalen Smith, Matas Buzelis, Julian Phillips. Just a lot of guys under 25 that are talented. This is it. You know, the Bulls want to blow it up. I get it. I don't know what the Kings' angle is here. You're not competing with Lavine and Sabonis. We know this. Lavine's like a third guy on a championship team, though. Like I don't think he's a second guy. To be a second guy, think about all the great second best players on a championship team. They all have those playoff crunch time chops. We've seen it before. Klay Thompson is one that comes to mind. Scottie Pippen, Dwayne Wade. These guys showed up in the big time. Obviously, those are like the best examples, but even like some of the lesser examples, like I'd say like Richard Hamilton from the 04 Pistons, he wasn't a superstar, but he showed up when it mattered. I don't know if Lavine can do that, and definitely not with Sabonis. Sabonis is not number one. Neither of those guys are a number one option on a championship team. They're not. Neither of them are number one options on a conference finals team. For all I care, honestly, I don't. So I don't know what's going to happen. I think the Kings are going to blow it up, but they got 3 first-round picks. That's crazy value for Kevin Huerter and De'Aaron Fox. I think everyone's missing this. The Charlotte pick. Charlotte's awful. I think they've won about 20 games so far. They're pretty bad. They're not going to win. They don't want to win. Their team's pretty immature. LaMelo's good, but he's not going to lead this team to the playoffs. That's how you can tell who's a great player and who's not. All the all-time greats could bring a bad team to the playoffs. Jordan did it. Bird did it. Magic to an extent, not really. LeBron did it. Kareem even. You can go down the list. They all can bring a bad team to the playoffs. Even Curry. Steph Curry. This is not that. LaMelo is not. Even at a young age, some of those great players were doing this already. And LaMelo, I don't think he's too serious about this whole thing. I think he's very talented. I just don't think he's too serious. So that's a free top 10 pick for the Kings. And they still have Lavine to use, by the way, as a trade chip if they want to move up. The Spurs pick, I don't think that's worth really anything. That's probably around the 20 to 25 mark in 2027. So they'll have De'Aaron probably still. They'll have Victor still, and they'll have whoever else they get in 2020. That's about 2 years away. So this one is interesting. 2031 Minnesota pick. I mentioned this earlier. I think that's going to be worth something. Think about it. 2031. First of all, that's 6 years from now. I don't even want to think about that because I'm going to be like 25. I don't even want to think about 2031 right now, but the Kings are. Anthony Edwards may not be there in 6 years. I would say no. If I had to guess, I don't think Anthony Edwards wants to be in Minnesota. Not many players did. I mean, we saw Kevin Love leave 6 years into his, was it 6 years? Yeah, he was drafted in 08, traded in 14. He was traded. Garnett, he spent a while there, but that's Garnett. Garnett's a different breed. He showed all the loyalty. It's not a loyal era anymore. And I'm not saying that for players. I'm saying that for the ownership too. Because if Luka can get traded from the Mavericks, and Luka gave them everything and was never going to leave them, who's to say that Anthony Edwards won't get traded? Edwards is very talented. He's not Luka, though. He's not. If we're being real, he's not. I'm not saying he has to be, but I'm just saying that my point is that he could get moved too at any given moment. And that's what I'd be worried about if I'm Minnesota. The Kings have my pick. They're going to have a great pick this year. They're going to be stacked with talent, the Kings. I think give it a couple of years, the Kings are going to be pretty good, pretty fast. But this is not the team. This is not the core with Lavine and Sabonis as your 1 year 2. It's not going to cut it. So I think this is a blow it up year. I think you get a lot of value for Sabonis. We've seen, there was a whole stigma before Jokic and the Nuggets won a championship that your big men need to be super hyper athletic and be able to block and all that and be hyper athletic, all that, and can jump and all that and be fast and strong. Jokic kind of broke that barrier. Now maybe Jokic is kind of a unicorn because he's a 7-footer that's overweight and can't jump over a quarter. But we'll see. I think Sabonis has a lot of value. Again, should have made the All-Star team. Go watch some Sabonis highlights. He's gross. He's gross. He's a great rebounder. He can kind of shoot a little bit. Definitely his mid-range is very good. He has soft touch around the rim. He's everything you want from a big, basically. And he's still relatively young. He's on a good contract for his value, at least. And he's going to make the All-NBA team again like he did last year, despite not making an All-Star team, which doesn't happen very often. But yeah, I think the Kings are the winner of this trade. But we have to talk about the Bulls, but I'm kind of jumping ahead. But listen, Lavine and 3 first, two of those first-round picks are going to be very valuable, in my opinion. And I'm even thinking about, in terms of guys like Gobert, who good chance they're retired in 6 years. Randall might be retired in 6 years. Randall might be retired in 2 years, honestly. I mean, I've watched some Minnesota games. It's very hot and cold. I'll be nice and say that. But the Bulls, what does this mean for the Bulls? Well, obviously they're blowing it up. They trade for Zach Collins, Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter, and they got their own first-round pick back from the Spurs, as I mentioned before. It's fascinating with the Bulls. So we haven't seen a Bulls game yet, obviously, with this team, but you can just tell they're kind of trying to blow it up. I think Vucevic is next. Vuce is having a great year, despite being 34. You wouldn't think he's 34. You'd think he's like 28. I remember him from Orlando, and him and Aaron Gordon bringing some really bad Magic teams to like the 7 or 6 seed. And like kind of like playing. Like they're kind of playing hard. I mean, they're not winning, but they're playing hard. They kind of want to be there. So I'm just reading the numbers. Vucevic has played every game this season, by the way. So very, very durable for a 34-year-old. Not very common. 20 points a game, 10 rebounds, about 2.5 offensive rebounds a game, and 3.5 assists. That's good for a big man. This is interesting. 55% from the field, 40% from 3 on 4.5 attempts. That's really great. Like, that's not common. And 82% from the free throw line. That's his biggest thing is his free throws. That's high percentage, but he's only taken 2 a game. Meaning that he's not being very physical. Again, when you get to that age, it's hard. It's harder on your body. But he's not really doing anything. He's not super athletic anymore. He wasn't super athletic to begin with, but he was a very talented big man. He still is, though. He's kind of revitalized. They have a whole pick and pop thing going. He's looked good. And he's worth something, though. He's kind of getting to that Brook Lopez thing where he kind of got revitalized in Milwaukee after the Nets tenure. I think he's very good. I think Vucevic is excellent. And I think he'd be a good fit on a team looking to compete. So I could see two very prominent big men being moved in the next couple of days. The trade deadline is Thursday. If I had to guess, there will be at least one more huge move done before the deadline. I don't see it stopping here. So there's a couple guys still left on the table. Vucevic, which I mentioned. Sabonis, which I mentioned. Then I think you can throw in guys like Jimmy Butler, who I don't think is worth as much as we think. I don't think he has that much like sway in the league anymore. This isn't 2021. This is 2025. It's a little bit of a different league. Bradley Beal, not impossible to move. I would believe it. Miles Turner. There's kind of a joke online that Turner is always in talks at the trade deadline and never gets moved. It's true. But if any year he was going to get traded, it'd be this year. We'd be like, finally. He's finally getting traded from Indiana. I don't think it's going to happen. I think they have a good piece in Turner, and they'd have to get a lot, I think. I think they have a good trade chip right there. And there's kind of some far out ones that I'm not 100% certain on, like Zion, where it's like he could, but like I don't know. There was like some rumors that some GMs were kind of interested, but I don't know if I buy it, to be honest. Zion is inconsistent as far as just being in games. That's the number one thing. If I'm a GM and your first thought is this guy going to get minutes? That's why Kawhi Leonard's still on the Clippers. You don't think they tried to move him? It's a miracle that the Sixers took Paul George, because Paul George has been awful. So yeah, I'm going to throw you a couple kind of far out ones, that could happen, but probably not. Obviously Zion. Embiid. Now hear me out. I'm not a big Embiid guy. I'm more partial to a guy like Tyrese Maxey. I think Embiid's time's up. And now, I'm not saying that because I hate him. I'm saying that because it'd be stupid to keep him. I don't know how much value he really has now. I don't. But I think you cash in your chips now, Philly. Daryl Morey, give me a call. We'll talk. There's got to be a team that wants him, right? That wants Embiid. You can sell him on the fact he has an MVP. He's not a number 1, but he could be a number 2 on a championship team, right? He could. I mean, if he's healthy, that is. I don't know where he'd go. I'm just looking at the list. A couple years ago, I remember the whole Miami Heat thing. I don't think that happens, but it's a thought. It's just a thought. I don't know where he'd go by any means, but it's worth making some calls. I mean, if Luka and Anthony Davis can both get traded for each other, I don't see why Embiid can't, right? Anything's on the table really now, unless if you're Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, if you're on the Celtics, if you're on the Cavs, or you're on the Knicks. I think everyone else is kind of on the table. Or if you're Jokic. I don't think Jokic's going to get moved. If you're anybody else, I think you're on the table. LeBron. Now, listen. I was talking to some people, okay? And I'm not saying LeBron's going to get traded. I don't think he would. I don't think that would make any sense. I think it's more likely he retires this year. Think about it like this. The Lakers have Luka now. They want to cash in. They want to start building him up with supporting cast so they know he won't leave. See what you got with LeBron, right? I don't think it really does happen. I don't think it goes down. I don't think any of that. It's a fun thought experiment. I don't have a trade brought up. I don't have anything. I would have to sit down and think about it for a little bit. But try to cash in. Luka, whenever LeBron decides to retire, who's Luka left with? Jackson Hayes, okay. Right? Rua Hachimura, okay. Who are these guys? Who's the second guy on a championship team? Nobody. Now, I don't know when LeBron will retire. But when he does, Austin Reeves and I don't know. Do you think that's your second guy? You think Luka and Austin Reeves are gonna take on the West? I mean, listen, Luka can take a team anywhere, but you gotta have a real second guy. So I think you make some calls. You don't do anything necessarily unless you absolutely are 110% in. But you make calls. I know, and I'm gonna get a lot of heat. I'm fine. I'm fine with it. I like it. I don't mind. Kevin Durant. Now, I know. Listen, I was talking to my good friend, Zach Finney. He is a diehard Phoenix Suns fan. He's a little older than me, so he's been around the NBA for a little bit longer than I have. And he's been telling me Durant kind of just walks through the games. He gets his points, don't get me wrong, and they're kind of competing, they're kind of not. The Suns are in a weird spot because they have 3 guys on big contracts, and they all kind of do a similar thing. Different levels, but they, as far as archetypes go, they're very similar. I don't know what the value is like for a guy like Durant, but are you really competing right now? What's your game plan in 3 years? If Booker doesn't ask out by now, you're going to have Booker, Beal will probably be gone, and Durant might be retired. What is your angle? What's your angle after that? Where do you go? As far as I'm concerned, they have no strong young guys, right? I don't know. Am I missing? Unless I'm missing something. Just a thought. Lastly, this is very interesting stuff. Giannis, I think it's time. Listen, and I would be afraid of the Bucks in a 7-game series, but if you're Boston, the Bucks aren't getting by Boston or Cleveland, for all I'm concerned about. Maybe the Knicks, but not Boston or Cleveland. Giannis is getting older. Your supporting cast is getting older. Chris Middleton's not great. Not great. Brook Lopez is in his mid-30s. Damian Lillard's getting up there. Lillard's still good, but he's still getting up there. Okay, we have to call a spade at some point. Why would Giannis... What reason does Giannis have to stay other than loyalty? And it's just not like he's never thought about a trade. There's been all sorts of rumors. Listen, I understand rumors are rumors, but after a while, there's a little bit of validity. Not a lot, but a little bit of validity to these rumors. And I'm not saying any of these trades are going to happen. The Zion, the LeBron, the Durant, and the Giannis. I don't think any of those are necessarily going to happen. I think a trade like a Jimmy Butler trade or like another Bulls trade or another Kings trade is much more likely. I don't think it's impossible though. We'll have to see. And it's definitely a crazy world, and be fairly warned. It is likely that there will be another emergency podcast, a trilogy of sorts, if you will, tomorrow or Wednesday or maybe Thursday. I don't know. We'll see how the cards are played. Don't count it out quite yet. But with all that being said, I have been your host, Connor Lewis. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.